Ship happens, and so does the drama. A deep dive into Summer House Season 10, Episode 13. Wave, welcome back to the chaos. If you thought the summer in the Hamptons was about rosé, sunshine, and carefree flirting, Episode 13 said, not today. Ship happens isn't just a cute little pun, it's a warning. Because in this episode, every relationship, every friendship, and every situationship is either drifting, sinking, or straight up lying about staying afloat. This wasn't the loudest episode of the season. Nobody flipped a table. Nobody stormed out screaming, well, not dramatically enough. But what we did get? Quiet tension, lingering resentment, side eyes sharp enough to cut glass. And honestly, that kind of drama hits harder. Heartbreak, the triangle that refuses to die. West, Sierra and Amanda. Let's get straight into the emotional mess that's been dragging itself through the house like a storm cloud that refuses to pass. West, Sierra, Amanda. What started as flirty, fun, maybe something more energy has now turned into one of the most uncomfortable dynamics in the house. Sierra is trying, she really is. She's trying to act unbothered, trying to stay composed, trying to not look like she's spiraling over a man who clearly doesn't know what he wants. But baby, the hurt is there. You can see it in her face. You can hear it in the pauses between her words. West, on the other hand, is giving confusion. Not the cute kind, the exhausting kind. He already crossed a line earlier in the season, kissing another girl in front of Sierra like he forgot cameras exist, and now he's stuck in apology mode. But here's the problem, apologizing doesn't magically rebuild trust. And his actions, still questionable. Then there's Amanda. Amanda is in a tricky position because she's supposed to be a friend, but her involvement in this whole situation feels messy. Not necessarily intentional, but messy enough to make you raise an eyebrow. She's trying to play peacekeeper, but sometimes it feels like she's adding to the confusion instead of clearing it up. And the energy between all three of them? Awkward, forced, unresolved. They're all saying, we're good, but nobody actually believes it, including them. Cocktail the house dynamics. Smiles on the surface, tension underneath. One thing Summer House does really well is showing how group dynamics shift when there's unresolved drama in the air. And in episode 13, the vibe is off. The parties are still happening. The drinks are still flowing. People are still dressing up, going out, laughing, dancing. But look a little closer. Conversations feel shorter. Eye contact feels calculated. People are choosing sides without saying it out loud. There's this underlying tension that follows everyone from room to room like an uninvited guest. Dinner scenes, uncomfortable, group outings, forced fun, late-night conversations, full of things not being said. And that's what makes this episode so interesting. Because instead of explosive fights, we're watching emotional distance grow in real time. It's the kind of drama that builds slowly, and then explodes when you least expect it. Ring Kyle and Amanda, married, but are they good? Now let's talk about the couple that should be the stable one in the house, but somehow still feels like it's hanging on by a thread. Kyle and Amanda. At this point, their relationship feels less like a partnership and more like a constant negotiation. In episode 13, we see more of those subtle cracks. Communication that feels strained, conversations that don't really resolve anything, underlying frustration that neither of them is fully addressing. Amanda seems tired, not just physically, but emotionally. Kyle, meanwhile, is trying, but sometimes trying isn't enough when the issues run deeper than what's being said on the surface. And what makes it worse? The drama happening around them. Because when the house is tense, it puts pressure on every relationship. And instead of being a united front, Kyle and Amanda sometimes feel like they're reacting separately. It's giving. We love each other, but we don't always like each other. And that's a dangerous place to be. Fire the quiet storm. Why this episode hits differently. Ship happens isn't about big moments. It's about the slow unraveling. It's about the conversations that don't go deep enough. The apologies that don't fully land. The friendships that feel a little less solid than they did before. This episode is the calm before the storm. You can feel it building. Every glance, every pause, every awkward laugh. Something is coming, and when it does, it's not going to be pretty. Sierra's emotional control versus internal chaos. Let's circle back to Sierra for a second, because her presence in this episode is actually one of the most compelling parts. She's not yelling, she's not crying, at least not openly. She's not making a scene. But she is processing, and you can tell she's trying to protect herself. There's a level of emotional maturity in how she's handling things, choosing not to react impulsively, choosing to observe instead of explode. But at the same time, you can only hold things in for so long. And when you do finally let it out, it's usually louder than it would have been if you'd just addressed it from the start. Sierra is at that breaking point. And the question is, when she finally speaks up, who's ready to hear it? Thinking face West, confused or calculated? Now let's talk about West, because his role in this drama is interesting. At first, he came off charming, easygoing, the kind of guy who doesn't take things too seriously. But now, that same energy is starting to feel like avoidance. He's not fully committing to Sierra. He's not fully stepping away either. He's just there, floating. And in a situation like this, that's actually worse than making a clear decision. Because while he's figuring himself out, Sierra is left dealing with the emotional aftermath. Is he confused, or is he just enjoying the attention? Either way, it's not a good look. Why Amanda's position, friend or complication? Amanda's involvement in this dynamic adds another layer of complexity. She's not the main issue, but her presence in the situation definitely influences how things play out. She's trying to support Sierra. She's trying to stay neutral. But neutrality in a messy situation often comes across as unclear. And when emotions are high, unclear intentions can create even more tension. Amanda isn't being malicious, but she is part of the confusion. And in a house where everyone is already on edge, that matters. Face mask the illusion of resolution. One of the biggest themes in this episode is the illusion of things being handled. People are having conversations. They're apologizing. They're saying all the right things. But are they actually resolving anything? Not really. Because real resolution requires honesty. And honesty requires vulnerability. And right now, most of the house is choosing comfort over confrontation. They'd rather keep things surface level than dig into the real issues. But here's the thing about unresolved tension. It doesn't disappear. It builds, and builds, and builds, until it explodes. Crystal Ball setting the stage for the final episodes. Episode 13 is a setup episode. And not in a boring way. In a, you better pay attention because this is about to get real, way. We're heading into the final stretch of the season, and you can already see who's drifting apart, who's holding on to something that's already over, who's about to get called out. Every storyline is reaching a breaking point. And if this episode taught us anything, it's that the calm doesn't last long in the summer house. Speech balloon final thoughts. When the party ends, what's left? Ship Happens is one of those episodes that doesn't rely on chaos to be impactful. Instead, it leans into something more real. Emotional tension, unspoken feelings, relationships that aren't as solid as they seem. It's messy in a quieter way. More psychological, more layered, and honestly, more relatable. Because sometimes the hardest moments aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet ones where you're sitting in a room full of people, and still feel like something's off. Clinking glass is the real tea. By the end of this episode, one thing is clear. Not everybody is going to make it through this summer the same way they came in. Some relationships are already sinking. Some friendships are barely staying afloat. And some people are about to realize they were never really secure to begin with. Because in the summer house, when ship happens, it doesn't just shake the water. It changes everything.